Well, jeepers! You're listening to Smash or Pass with JayBee, Millie, and Smash.
Of course, today we are joined by Rhianna.
Hey.
So, in today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Shaggy's Showdown. Now, I want to start by saying Happy Christmas to everybody. This is our Christmas Day episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the special that's going to be premiering in another, oh gosh, maybe 2 hours or so, but please stick around to that. But yeah, this is Christmas Day, so I hope everyone's having a good day so far, that you've unwrapped some awesome stuff, and I suspect that I will have as well, so team...
I've wrapped the presents, I know you have, it's okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Can you give me a hint on this episode today?
No. So, like you were saying, Happy Christmas. Stick around on the channel today. We have an amazing Christmas special coming up at 11 p.m. GMT.
Ooh, and if you're not following our Instagram account, I recommend it. It's in the description below. We've also got a special announcement that we can talk about at the end of this episode, so that's cool. I'm happy about that.
Okay, so back into today's episode, we are taking a look at Shaggy's Showdown. Now, for JayBee and I, this was the first watch through of this movie. Rhianna, I know you said you'd seen it a couple of times before, right?
Yeah, I've watched it, I'd say around 5 times.
Okay,
Wow.
good. So certainly the expert for today. So for those of you like JayBee and I who hadn't seen this one before, or if you haven't seen this one for a little while, Shaggy's Showdown is basically Shaggy going back to see some of his distant cousins, trying to re-engage with some of the family. And when he arrives there, everyone's really scared of him and he doesn't know why. But it's because his hometown has been haunted by Dapper Jack Rogers, who is one of Shaggy's ancestors. Now, throughout this kind of movie, we see that Shaggy kind of is in touch with lots of these kind of inner instincts when it comes to things surrounding the horses and all these kind of rodeo things. And he just has this natural talent that's established throughout. And ultimately, as always, it kind of resolves in them unmasking the villain, and also kind of a nice little bit at the end where there's some justice for Shaggy's kind of relatives and things as well. So it's certainly a really good plot, one that I'm really interested to talk about.
You ever find it a bit whack, Millie, that this is theoretically our kind of show, and yet there's not been an episode where we've been the expert?
Look, when it comes around to the live action movies, we will be the experts then.
I'm not convinced, you know. At least I won't be.
Look, you came up with the concept, we then went to find the experts.
Oh,
and
yeah,
we have,
yeah,
so...
that's true. I'm like...
We need to have an episode purely about Daphne, and then you'll be the absolute expert, JayBee.
Oh, well, actually, my heart was broken because there was a Scooby panel about Daphne, and I wasn't asked to be in that episode. I think I know why I wasn't asked to be in the episode.
Yeah, I know why you weren't invited to
But
that
I was
episode.
heartbroken to not receive that. I think we can do our own. We can... Oh my gosh,
Okay, once we finish the episodes, we need to do something.
we could get Kate Melton to do it with us.
That's true.
I'd love that. I like a nice little Daphne episode. That'd be amazing. And then I'll be the expert. And I don't even think I will be the expert, but I want to be. That's what I can say about that.
I think you would be. So, my first question for you both about this movie is about the title. What do you think? Because I personally was quite excited about this title, because I want to say it's the first one that's not just Scooby in the title, right?
I mean, there's the first one where there's been another name in the gang, so it's not been like Scooby Doo and Fred's Traps or Scooby Doo and Daphne's Amazing Hair. It's been just kind of Scooby Doo and the Monster or something. Which, in a way, I guess they kind of have done that here, considering the monster looks theoretically like Shaggy, but yeah, it's not even Shaggy Dapper Jack Rogers, it's just Dapper Jack Rogers. So it's an interesting observation, and interestingly enough, when we were going on this journey, when I'd conceptually come up with things, when I read that Shaggy's Showdown was a movie, I think I saw it the first time on the W.H. Smith's website. I actually thought that this was where the Ultra Instinct Shaggy memes came from, because I'd seen clips of Shaggy getting into a fight in a cafe and Shaggy facing off against bikers, and so I'd instantly gone, oh, Shaggy Showdown, that must be the one where it happens. And so to now actually watch it after knowing better, I'm like, oh, okay, I like this. This is a bit better.
Now, Rhianna, do you remember this movie coming out, what you thought to the title initially, if you're excited to hopefully see some more character development from Shaggy here?
When I first saw that it was coming out, I got really excited. I believe my mum got it for me, the DVD for me for Christmas. And when I got it, it's my DVD. It's got one of the dust covery sleevey things, and it's like holographic in some ways. And the whole like cover, the name, it drew me in instantly because I was thinking about all of the other episodes where we've met, like in What's New Scooby Doo, we've had some Western style, we've had where we've met some of Shaggy's relatives, and I was like, okay, this could be similar. Are we going to see some like the others? And I feel like they did a nice job with like the title and everything. It rounds off everything because, you know, I don't know. There's something about it that just drew me in, and I feel like it all tied into other episodes where we've seen his relatives and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think Shaggy's quite a compelling character, the one that often doesn't get enough justice. They come across as the coward when in reality they do contribute so much more than that. So it is nice when they kind of get the attention that they deserve. So I was kind of excited for that reason. One thing I will say, and I know we've not covered this movie yet, is Sword and the Scoob. We see their family in this as well, in that as well. And I think it's a different vibe, right?
Novel, Shaggy thingy. Yeah.
And so there's certainly different branches and different aspects to his family.
That's what it reminded me of. I couldn't quite put my finger on where it reminded me of, but that's... Oh my gosh. He got a lot of family members.
He's like me.
That's true.
Like, there was parts of this where we were watching it and he was like, oh, it's my third cousin. And JayBee was like, oh my gosh, this is like every trip we do to go and see your family. Because, like, I literally do know as far as like my third cousins.
It's mad to me. And I'd
go as far as to say I know my fourth cousins.
I've got a mum and a dad and a brother. And sometimes socially that's a bit too overwhelming. So I don't know how you cope. Think of it.
So this movie starts with a bit of a cold opening. So you take a look at this ranch that looks quite sinister. Like, just the initial views of it, I was expecting potentially even a bit of like a ghost level, certainly more of a ghost level than what we get. Just because, I don't know, you know, like there's that kind of, is it like, do they call it twine or something, that blowing through the wind and...
Wait, the tumbleweed?
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
Just things like that. I don't know why I associate with more of a ghosty element. And for all they say this is like the ghost of Dapper Jack Rogers, I do kind of think that they've at least given it a stronger persona than a ghost. I mean, what do you think to the opening and seeing the villain initially, Rhianna?
It was like my first instinct was I turned to, I'm trying to remember exactly. I know yesterday when I watched it, all throughout the movie, I kept saying to my mum, because I watched it with like my mum, my sister, and my brother, and I was like, this is kind of dark. Like, it's got small references that would go over like little kids' heads, but there were small references that I was like, that's dark. But one thing that stood out for me in this opening was they mentioned who the ghost was. It was Kyle. I don't think in any other Scooby Doo movie they've like had someone turn around and say, oh, so and so, will you stop doing that or something? And then it turns out to be them as the ghost. But they did it, and at first I didn't really notice that, and then, you know, when we find out who the actual ghost is, I was like, wait, they've mentioned that at the beginning, and that just blew me completely. But the first beginning bit, it gave me chills, and I always love it when the opening bit of Scooby Doo, it leads up to something bigger, and I think they did it well.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it was a really good villain. I agree with what you were saying as well, that it's kind of like an age level up. I mean, I think it was at the end, so there's a bit that we'll come on to, but like, I think Dapper Jack Rogers, the person that was behind it, the second reveal, like reaches for a gun and things like that. And I think that's something that JayBee, I think you always are kind of a bit like, okay, Scooby-Doo's just leveled up, because this is kind of, it goes from just an unmasking to this is a real threat now, and that's something where it's just a bit beyond.
I feel like this is going to be the type of debate that goes over a lot of like kind of listeners' heads, because we've had situations, I think it was in the Blue Falcon movie, where we were speaking to Ashton about it, like saying, oh, do you think it's... Actually, no, it was before, it was the cold open... No, it wasn't. It was some part of Big Top Scooby-Doo, Where I'm like, okay, is it weird to you that in like a kind of for kids family animation has guns? And I've been like, oh no, you know, guns are the type of thing you can just find in the local fridge. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, you can pop down to our equivalent of Tesco and pick up a rifle. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. But now I think because we're all in the UK, like I have never ever in my entire life seen. I don't think I've ever seen a gun, right? Would I have seen a gun? Have you
Not
ever
that
seen
I
a gun,
can
Millie?
think of, no.
Rhianna, have you seen a gun?
No, I've seen like pictures of people holding in, of course, in
Right.
movies and stuff. I've never physically seen one in person.
I know that being from the countryside, my
Oh,
mum
yeah.
has like friends that are farmers that like go hunting and stuff. So I know of people that have guns in the UK.
Your ex had a gun in their room, didn't
Great,
they?
thanks
Like
for
a
that,
big
JayBee.
rifle.
Thanks for that. Let's continue with the thing.
But I've got a bigger rifle.
Okay, you're disturbed. Okay.
Just...
Revealing that the villain was Dapper Jack Rogers. Now this was something where JayBee was like, no, because
oh gosh, don't
we
get
have
me.
a bit of a grievance with Dapper Jack Rogers in that we've been collecting the Scooby Doo Playmobil blind bags. And so obviously, you know, you want to complete the full set, but you never know who you're getting. And we've opened about 50 of these, and at least 25 of them have been Dapper Jack Rogers. So
My gosh,
just
that's
to
so
see
many.
just to see them again, JayBee was like, no, not you. No. So that was a good, like, little interesting start there for you, wasn't it?
Well, to be fair, even at the start, I knew that their name was Dapper Jack Rogers, but I always thought that they were Dead Justice from Mystery Incorporated. Because they're quite similar, but no, it was this Dapper Jack Rogers, and in a way, it kind of spoiled the movie a bit, even though it wastes no time in revealing that it's Dapper Jack Rogers. In a way, it was kind of like, oh, they've just called him Dapper Jack. Is the fact that there are Rogers going to be revealed halfway through was like a big reveal, and we've been spoiled by Playmobil. But it's not really
I
a
think,
big
like,
secret.
you see the, like, banner at the start, that, like, board thing.
Yeah.
Where you see that Shaggy. If anything, I kind of commented that I think the villain looks less like Shaggy than they do in the pictures. So you see a picture of Dapper Jack on the wall in the cousin's house, you see them on that board in the town, and you see their ghost at the end. But when they're actually the villain, I think they've made a point perhaps of making it look less like Shaggy.
Well, I think they're only Shaggy-like for like one frame, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, I think we kind of speculated, I don't know what you think, Rhianna, that maybe they did that because they didn't want anyone to see Shaggy as the villain as such.
Yeah, I think may have been done also to cover like plot holes, because at the beginning, you know, everyone was scared of Shaggy, and I feel like if they kept Dapper Jack so much similar, like facial wise and everything, like Shaggy, there would be people even throughout it who would be like, nope, stay away from me. But they needed Shaggy to be safe in some ways. So I think it may have been to cover up that plot hole that otherwise strangers, you know, at like the concert that happens later on, strangers would point out and be like, oh no, he's Dapper Jack, like arrest him and things like that. So I think it may be part of it, but that was one thing that did bug me a little bit, was that, you know, they tried to make out that he was basically the spitting image of Shaggy, but he really wasn't in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think like you say, it was mainly just for that kind of one scene. Something else that we kind of learn at the start is that it's a bit of a tourist place. So I kind of was picking up on things like, okay, so I guess it's a common theme that if somewhere's quite touristy, that's meant to be quite remote, perhaps it's going to be revealed to be like the cousin or something, because they don't like all this tourism in a place that's meant to be quite quiet, I want to say. So the tourism thing was something that I picked up on, but obviously it wasn't really a factor.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to that end, that's something that I can't really relate to, because I would, from my point of view, I would almost think that they'd be grateful for the tourism, right? Because it's like, it's boosting their economy. And I guess in terms of like the UK, there's only one place really that like benefits from that type of tourism, and that's probably Scotland, right? But I'd imagine the locals welcome people visiting. But again, maybe not. I don't know.
See, I'm from a heavily tourist populated place in the UK. And it's like in the summer, they close roads because it can't deal with the amount of people that go into the town. So all the roads in the town centre get closed. But then in the winter, it's a ghost town. You can drive through and literally not see a single person because obviously there's less attraction if the weather's bad. I know that they complain about tourists a lot there, so, you know. But at the same time, they also acknowledge that without it, so many businesses would close.
Oh, yeah. I don't
Which
know,
I guess they touch on here that, like,
makes-
they need that tourism and the threat of the ghost is kind of taking away from it.
Well, in a way, I guess it is and it isn't. They're not happy about it, but at the same time, it's almost like, well, you have to think it's Scooby Doo. Who benefits from this ghost? You know, from this ghost presence? Is someone trying to sell something for cheap? Is there some type of land or treasure that could be potentially under the farmland? Like, all that type of thing is stuff that you're kind of thinking about. And I will admit, it took me a very, very long time to point the finger at someone in my notes watching this, and I got it completely wrong.
Me too. This is the first one where I've made a point in my notes of like, who do I suspect at this time? Honestly, nobody. Like, no one's standing out to me right now. And that's about halfway through.
Did you not suspect anyone ever?
Not really. Because I feel like at some point or other, pretty much everybody was cleared.
I suspected Dave and David.
I didn't. See, when I was thinking who do I suspect, it was just after their tripod scene.
Oh.
And so I was like, not them. Not the cousin. So yeah, I just pretty much ticked everyone off and was a bit like, no.
Yeah, but that's why I thought it was them, because they said if you want to find out, check the grave, and the grave is pre-set up to have them there. So it's kind of like, well, either the person that is the culprit has seen into the future, or they've just set it up. And I guess as it stands, that's kind of a weak point now that I think about it. Because how would they know that they'd appear there? But
something else that I thought there'd be more behind is Dapper Jack shooting at all the Jays on the floor. A lot of the things they shot ended up just looking like a green jay. And obviously for their name being Jack, it's kind of like, okay, I get it. But at the same time, I was thinking there'd maybe be more explanation than just to assume that that was why.
well, I guess if they're gonna simulate an outlaw, maybe they'd leave like a calling card or something.
I guess if they really wanted to villainize them, then they'd want to, like, obviously we're talking about the reveal at the end, they do it because they want to villainize Dapper Jack. So maybe that's their way of just saying, okay, this is definitely who it is, just in case there was a single ounce of doubt in any of your minds, this is him.
Yeah, just a J everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Incriminator.
Okay, so we're moving on to the titles. Like, I love how long the intro's taken us already. It's just because I don't know, there's just so much, I think, more to process at the start of this one than there is at most. But Rhianna, how did you feel about the titles and the music that came with them and all that kind of thing?
I loved it. I don't know a single Scooby-Doo episode, movie, anything that has failed on the music part. Music and titles, it's so catchy. And when I rewatched it yesterday, it was stuck in my head all night. And I think you can't have a Scooby-Doo movie without, we've got all of the other factors, but it's just something about an iconic piece of music to that movie or episode that when you think of it, like, we all, I mean, I'm just speaking on my own behalf and like my family, but when we watch things like the Cyber Chase, we've got like the intro music where it's like all like echoey in some ways. That comes to mind. With this movie, I instantly think of that music. I just think Scooby-Doo, they do amazing jobs on all of the titles and the songs and everything.
They do. I mean, for me, a particular era that's standing out with Scooby in terms of that was around like the Loch Ness and Legend of the Vampire time. I love the music in both of those. So when we were recording those episodes, I was actually singing the songs on the way to work like a couple of days later.
Well, it's mad though, because I think like we can all probably say, iconic songs. There's Terror Time, there's Hello Cyber Dream, and all types of stuff like that. But actually, doing this series, I've grown to have like so much love for that era that's like Abracadabra Do, Camp Scare, Phantasaur, where there's like little animations as the intros and like an original song to go along with it. I wish that they did more of that, but I do like these intros, and I just think, I don't know, I feel like if these were the movies that we had growing up, for example, so say instead of Zombie Island we had Shaggy Showdown, instead of Witch's Ghost we had Phantasaur, maybe it wouldn't have grown into what it is now necessarily, but I feel like they're doing a pretty good job keeping it alive. Because I just love the kind of Western style of it all. And there's even callbacks to classic scenes, like they have like Scooby in like Shaggy's arms, but it's like animated like the original series, so I really did like that.
That was good. I agree with you both on the titles. I think the music was really good. It was really engaging. And going into this after the titles, I was certainly like there with this movie. Sometimes, I don't know, I felt like I don't engage with some of the movies as quickly, but with this one, I was definitely there at that point.
Yeah. There's some that I've not, like, there's no music that I've disliked in terms of the intros. There's just some that I thought were a bit underwhelming. And I guess this one, like, I don't remember it now. I remember liking it at the time, but I couldn't sing you it, or like I couldn't hum any of it to you, but it's not iconic to me, but I liked it.
Me too. So then we're going, I feel like this is quite a classic Scooby thing to go from cold opening to titles to the mystery machine, and that's where they are next, is in the mystery machine. And Shaggy's singing, Daphne's kind of covering her ears, and then I feel like they set the vibe with Velma a little bit here. You know, when she sees that font and like gets rather upset by it, I find sometimes they do things with Velma's character that I'm not a huge fan of. And I think that's something that we'll touch upon in the special in like a couple of hours. But like for me, this is something that where they've done like something with Velma's character again, where I'm a bit like, please tell me this has a purpose. Because I don't want them to kind of just keep doing things that the audience kind of just find maybe perhaps a bit unnecessary.
See, I kind of disagree. Now, when we first heard Kate Micucci's Velma, because bear in mind, this is Kate Micucci, not Mindy Cohn, as I'm sure a lot of us are used to at this point, but when I first heard Kate Micucci in The Sword and the Scoob, I really didn't like her performance at all. I thought it was a bit annoying, a bit aggravating. But then I went back and watched Be Cool Scooby Doo, where I feel like she does an amazing job as Velma in there. Maybe even one of my favourite Velmas, because she was almost portrayed as a bit of like a Sherlock type, which I think going forward, that's such a great way to do things. And here as well, it seems like she's being Kate Micucci, which is how I think she does best as Velma. And so doing these quirks, I was expected to be annoyed by it, but ultimately I found Velma to be quite funny in this movie all throughout, and I think it starts her, and I'm like, I don't know what went, I don't know if it went wrong necessarily with Kate Micucci's performance, but it definitely is strong for me in everything that we've heard her in so far, you know, up to date, if that makes sense. So not kind of everyone that we've covered, I've liked her performance in.
Me too. I don't know if it was that there was just a stark contrast from like growing up watching Cyber Chase to then diving straight into The Sword and the Scoob.
Maybe.
So just that stark contrast was a bit like, oh gosh. Okay,
because even in
different.
Straight Out of Nowhere, I really enjoy them in that as well.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was just that initial kind of stark contrast, or if, I don't know, I think maybe her voice is going up a couple of pitches. Like for me, I feel like her voice went up a couple of pitches in this one. I don't know if that was just the allergies thing that she's doing, but I do think the voice went to a pitch closer to what it is in Sword and the Scoob.
Maybe.
But then, like you say, in all the movies up to this point and Straight Out of Nowhere, I enjoyed her as Velma. So
I mean, it never annoyed me in this movie, like it annoyed me in Sword and the Scoob.
But I could certainly see the pitch was rising.
Yeah.
From what it was. So I don't know.
What about Rhianna? What do you think about this kind of opening scene with Velma?
I'm not going to lie. There was something about, especially as the movie went on, and I think it was because of the allergy things, how her pitch went up, and also she went more nasally, which I understand because of, you know, allergies and stuff. But I feel like if Kate Micucci just spoke in her normal voice, she sounds more like Velma than when she tries to be slightly more nasally. And, you know, but the whole font thing, when she obsessed over the font, I'm not going to lie, that's me with certain fonts. I turned to my brother and I was talking to him about like different things, and there was one font. I mean, in some situations I get very annoyed when some people use Comic Sans, because I'm like, it does not need to be used in this situation. And I can understand like her frustrations about it. But in the intro, like that little sequence, my mind went to something about the mystery machine did not look right on the outside, and I still can't put my finger on it, but it's really bugging me. It's like it feels more squished and box-like, and it's like, please don't. And it's still bugging me.
Yeah, it does look different. I thought
that was just me. I thought they just modified it to be like desert ready, but then they never allude to it or mention it.
I was looking, I'll admit, at some Christmas ideas for JayBee, because he's a bit of a Scooby collector. And when I was looking, I found a version of the mystery machine. And I was like, oh, this looks a bit weird. I don't remember ever seeing it look like this before. And then I was start watching the movie and I was like, oh, okay. I have seen it look like that. Like, I think the back almost looks more boxed, but the front almost looks kind of like weirdly angled.
Yeah. It just doesn't look right, to be
No,
honest.
it does look different.
That's a good observation. I didn't even feel like writing that down in my notes, but I did notice it and just literally just figured, oh, I guess it's more off-roady because they're desert or something.
Yeah.
That's mad.
They change it up slightly sometimes, but no, I do know what you mean about the shape of it being different.
But I do completely, for all I can't relate to Velma's kind of annoyance with the text. I mean, there are some that bore me. There aren't any that like annoy me.
See, I'm thinking
everyone has their own little like things. Like, for example, say I could be single theoretically, okay? And people listening to this, imagine the most attractive female that you can think of, right? And I could be on a date with them and later find out that to keep their place while reading a book, they fold the page over. And to me, that's a deal breaker. I'm like out there as quick as a flash. Because that's one thing that I just, it rocks me to my core. And so I can understand Velma having something that almost rocks her to her core for all I can't relate to it. And it is funny, right? So I'm all for this.
It's just always good to see a bit of personality. Like, I think something that comes through really strongly in this movie is personality.
What's your pet peeve, Miller?
Oh no, mine's really bad.
Is it me?
No, like, I don't know why it is, but one of my pet peeves is the noise people make when they eat.
Oh,
I don't know why. It's a really bad pet peeve to have, and I always feel really bad, but I can't help it. Like, I actually have this underlying thing that when I hear people eating, like, I start to get really angry and I can't control it. And I sit there and I try to be polite and I try to be quiet, but I get this like building up anger inside me just as the noise continues. And what's really bad, bless him, is my dad. I love my dad, I do, but he's the loudest eater of anyone I've ever met, to the point where when he was like used to be eating and I wasn't, I'd like turn the TV up, I'd leave the room. It's just a really bad pet peeve and I can't help it.
Yeah, but to be fair, for some reason your parents feel the need to have the maximum TV volume as like 12 out of 100.
Yeah.
It's a very quiet scenario. I don't know why.
But
I probably eat loudly, but my lowest volume out of 100 is 50. Because I'm thinking I'm a bit deaf actually.
No.
I must be.
I think it's like you say though, there's just that need to cover up the noise and I can't stand it. I don't know why, it's just a really bad pet peeve. Okay, so continuing on with this, when they arrive, everyone's really scared of Shaggy, as we've kind of mentioned before. And I guess it's a bit of a reversal, because normally Shaggy's the one that's scared of everyone or everything.
True.
So I guess to see him playing a different aspect is interesting. And also we get a look at Cowboy Shaggy. They have a new kind of outfit, a new look. What did you think, JayBee?
Yeah, it was alright. You know, I didn't really think too much of it, because I think that with Shaggy and Scooby, you get so many variations of them all throughout. If it's disguising themselves mid-chase scene, or they do tend to get very adaptable. So I guess it wasn't too much of a surprise for me, but it was a nice touch that they've all become like you can definitely tell that they're in the setting that they are, which I appreciate tonally.
Rhianna, did you have any thoughts on the kind of new Shaggy look?
Really liked it, and I think what added to it, he was trying to do the accent, and when everyone was scared of him, he was like, well, am I doing it wrong? And then he was like going through all the different howdies and like greetings and stuff, try and get the accent back. And like that took me back to in my acting class with Kate. She's challenged me to learn to do an American accent, and I've tried doing like Southern, like Texan and everything. And in classes with her, especially in the group class, I'll be like, howdy, how you know, I'll go through all the different ones till I actually get it, and then I'll lose it 5 seconds later. And I found that funny because I could relate to it in some ways. And I think one thing that, you know, we see Shaggy and Scooby, they get all different costumes dressing up in the disguises, like you said, JayBee. And this one, for some reason, I think hit differently because it was throughout the movie they had it. They, like, Shaggy played the character of a cowboy all the way throughout the movie, and it was a nice change compared to what we usually see, where it'll be like changing outfits and not really committing to a role as in some ways.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's a good look. It's also really interesting to hear the Kate story about the accents and things as well.
Yeah, I'd like to learn different accents. I mean, it was easy around where I'm from to almost try and slip into a bit of a rubbish accent. Like whenever I had to avoid talking to someone out and about, I'd just put on my Indian accent and it was all good, you know. But I'd never seriously ever committed myself to that. That sounds amazing. I think if I could do my life again, if I could rethink my whole life process, I think I'd love to do something in like voice acting and voiceover.
See, I think I've got two voices. Like where I'm from like the heart of Yorkshire. It's very countrysidey. There's a very strong accent that exists. And then I left Yorkshire to go to university to study. And when I did that, I adapted into this, what my family like to call my university voice. That's certainly very different. It's kind of like the voice I'm using now. And then JayBee met me when I was using that voice, and the first time I introduced him to my family, my voice reverted back because it was my like home voice, and he was just a bit like, "What just happened? You don't speak like this. What just happened?" I was like, "Oh yeah, it's just how people speak like where I'm from." All right, okay. Gosh, that's different.
I thought I was catfished. I didn't like it. I was confused more than anything because I just didn't understand what had happened. I was utterly bewildered.
Okay, so moving forward, the next thing, they arrive at the Gannett Ranch and they meet Buddy G, who I'm guessing is meant to be like a YouTuber. I mean, you were speculating TikTok, but I think when this came out, I'm guessing YouTube.
Well, I was almost thinking back. I don't know when it closed down or when it changed, but almost musically, you know. I don't know who there was this famous musically guy. That wait, I think it was Jacob Sartorius. I was thinking 2017. It could have been a bit of a nod to that kind of generation of musical kids, but I don't know. I guess some type of social media presence or something. I don't know. Almost like, and even at the end, I was getting a bit of like a hillbilly Justin Bieber vibe.
Yeah, kind of like a young Justin Bieber.
Young blood, maybe.
And Daphne seems to be quite a big fan as well, which was interesting. Do you think?
I wasn't sure what to think about that though, to be honest. I think it's a lot better than Daphne.
Been a big fan of Kiss and how that ended.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't the best.
But I guess Daphne maybe is canonically at this point about 18 years old, so it wouldn't be too much of an age difference. And obviously it doesn't even get to that stage, but I'm just thinking about me personally. I would feel weird being a fan of someone like 15, 16, like online, right? I don't know. I just feel a bit weird about it. But it's really sweet and quite wholesome. But they don't get a lot of scenes together, you know, which surprises me, but I guess. I don't know. What did you think about Buddy G, Rhianna?
Honestly, at first I was like, what exactly? Like, you know, the ranch needed the money and everything, and he was bringing the money in, but then at the end they get the money from Shaggy. So it didn't really click with me what exactly his place was in the movie exactly. And I mean, seeing Daphne fangirl over him, I was like, it was really nice to see, because I think some people like would assume in some ways that Daphne would only be fans of like the big celebrities, like I don't know, like Taylor Lautner kind of guys, and if that makes sense. But it's nice to see that she is like, it kind of gives her another depth, that she appreciates other people's work as well, and it's not just look based, because I feel like sometimes, and this is one thing that does bug me about Scooby Doo sometimes, is that with Velma they always like branding her as the geek and the nerd, which, you know, that is part of her, but then when she like branches out, it's like another depth underneath it, and I feel like they did that with Daphne. But it would have been nice to see more scenes between Buddy G and Daphne. But I will admit, the Buddy G's mum reminds me a lot of Fred's mum in like Pirates Ahoy and things like that. There was something about how she was. It was like, reminds me so much of her.
Yeah, even the look slightly, that fits
like
really well.
Eccentric holiday maker. Like kind of, I like that.
And I guess something else that's interesting is the horse dynamic. So you've got Velma, who's allergic to horses, Buddy G, who's scared of them, Shaggy, who turns out to be a natural. I guess, do you have any horse riding stories, JayBee?
I don't have any horse riding stories, but I've got a horse story.
Okay.
And that's simply, I was seeing some relatives over in Canada one year, maybe 7 or 8 years ago now. I was a really young chap. So I went over to this horse and it just sneezed on me. And I fell over. And that's it. That's my story. And I don't like horses too much after that incident. But, you know, when I retire one day, I'd love a little horse ranch. I will admit. So that's my only experience with horses. What about you, Rhianna?
I don't actually had many interactions with horses. My sister has, and she actually, there was 2 horses that she was originally going to be getting and everything, but they were basically really antisocial, didn't like people or something like that. But they really liked her, and they would be really calm around her. And you know, I've been around. I think I've only like seen 1 or 2 horses in real life where I was up close and I got to stroke them. And I think I kind of had a flare up, so I think I may be like subtly allergic to them. But I don't really have a funny story. I know I've seen a lot of videos of Shetland horses chasing like people and biting people, because they have short horse syndrome. They're stubborn and they're moody.
Aww. I've heard that stroking horses is meant to be really good for mental health.
I'll admit, I kind of have a phobia of most animals. So I'm scared of horses, but I've always tried to learn to ride. So there was one time when I was little where we were on holiday in this place. You could just rent horses for the day and go horse riding. So I was with my best friend at the time, and she was the same age as me. So we got these 2 horses. We were there with my mum and dad. So my mum was walking hers around, my dad was walking mine, and hers was a nightmare. Mine was fine. Mine was calm. It was a really good horse. Hers tried to drag my mum and my friend into a river. So me and my dad were just continuing on this path, and this horse was trying to drag both my mum and this girl into the river. Then when we got back, there was like chains across all the stable doors, and as soon as we got back, before she'd had time to get off the horse, it like ran towards the stable, and like the chain that was across the thing nearly like caught her. It was awful. So that was like my first horse riding experience, but I was like, okay, it went well for me and I do want to learn. I kept going back for lessons, but like ultimately I'm just really scared of animals.
But
So
why?
I'm not very good.
Wait, how are you from the countryside but scared of animals?
I don't know. I genuinely have a fear of like every animal. I'm scared of dogs, I'm scared of cats, I'm scared of hamsters, I'm scared of rabbits.
Wait, you're scared of hamsters?
Yeah, I had a hamster and I couldn't pick it up because I was scared of it because it looked like a mouse.
You're scared of hamsters?
Yeah.
That's actually really cute, but what about gerbils?
I'm scared of them, they look like mice.
Cats.
I'm scared that they're gonna
What
scratch
about
me.
parrots?
Parrots, I like parrots.
Wait, parrots or ferrets?
Ferrets.
Ferrets, scared of them. I'm not scared of parrots. Birds, I think, are the one animal that I'm not scared of. And I don't. I think it's just because I assume they're gonna fly above my head and leave me alone.
Is it like a vulture you wouldn't be scared of?
Not as scared as I would be of like a mouse.
Huh.
Animals in the sea and animals in the air, I am not scared of.
Water snakes.
No, because they're in the water. Like, I've seen a water snake. I've been right, like, pretty much next to one.
How?
There was this place in France. It was, like, boiling hot summer. It was this kite festival, I think, in, like, the south of France. And my mum was just sat on a wall, looked down in the water, and there's, like, a water snake. Pointed it out to all of us, and I was like, it's fine. It's in the water. It can't hurt me.
Sharks.
No.
You're mad.
Water animals, air animals, fine. Land animals, no.
Well, that's kind of nuts.
It's a really weird character trait.
But I was reckless with animals as a kid. Like, I think I held my first snake at like 7 years old. And literally on holiday, I used to like purposely, and this is dangerous, I don't recommend this, don't do this at home or on holiday. But I used to like climb under like dig under rocks and stuff and like go into like little caves.
Oh, you used to collect
to find snake skin, yeah.
Just looking at the snake skin you found scared me.
It's just... You know
My dad, we once went to this zoo and the zookeepers were walking around with animals you could hold. So they offered to let my dad hold a snake and my dad was like, oh yeah, that's great. And I was crying, like full on crying at like 7 or 8 years old, begging my dad not to hold this snake because I thought it was going to hurt him. In like a public place. There must have been at least 50, 60 people just walking past. And I was crying my eyes out like, no, don't do it, it's gonna hurt you.
Did you not get told off?
No, my dad ultimately like just agreed not to hold the snake and we walked off.
I'd have been shouted at and put in counselling for that.
I was like, no, it's gonna hurt you, don't do it.
Oh, I mean, that's cute though. Wholesome stories. Wholesome stories for the holidays.
So then Shaggy meets his relatives, his third cousin.
Okay.
Good. And then they have that flashback scene, and I guess something I didn't know about the Dapper Jack Rogers story was the dog that looks like Scooby. And what's really funny is at the end of it, when Fred's like, hey, did everyone just picture that as Scooby?
Yeah,
I like that.
I love that a lot. It was a bit disappointing though that we never saw like the villain or the villains try and make a kind of ghost dog. Like, and maybe that would have been a bit dark, but I think that because they were so closely tied to Dapper Jack Rogers' story, that instead of, well, as well as a horse maybe, they could have had a dog in the mix. I don't know. I don't know how they would have done it if it was going to be mechanical, but I thought that would have been nice. But I love the flashback.
Did you like the flashback scene, Rhianna?
I did. I think this goes with most Scooby Doo movies. Any flashback scene I really like because it sets the tone, and there's little, again, they do this well in Scooby Doo movies. There's little Easter eggs and little hints within the flashbacks themselves, and I really enjoyed it, and I loved seeing that Dapper Jack had his own like Scooby. I feel like any ancestor of Shaggy will have a Scooby in some way, shape, or form, whether it be a best friend, like as a dog, or one that is potentially a like enemy of theirs. Somewhere there has to be a Scooby.
Yeah.
And we see it again in like What's New Scooby Doo. There was I can't remember for the life of me the episode. It's with I think it's a giant eagle, and I can't remember if it's like a cousin or something of Shaggy's. Why has my mind gone blank on this? And we see that he has a dog that looks like Scooby but more scruffy fur, and my mind has gone completely blank. And I'm mad at myself because it's one of my favorite episodes. And why has my mind gone blank?
You see, I don't remember that too much either. The only dog that I could see fitting into this kind of story would potentially be Yabadoo. I don't know. My memory is very, very bad at the moment. I don't know what I remember and what I don't remember.
You don't remember yesterday, do you, JayBee?
Well, I actually genuinely don't think I do. What did we do yesterday?
Not very much. I think we just got the stuff that we needed to finish off Christmas shopping. Really.
Oh, that's okay.
That's about it. Okay, so next part that I've noted down is something that I really enjoyed. So one thing that I've particularly enjoyed throughout this movie is character development. And there's one scene where Fred's looking at different traps, like different net,
yes.
and I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, Mystery Incorporated. I really enjoyed that series. And for me, this is almost like a direct link into that.
I loved that too. That was incredible. I like it when Fred gets characterized like that, because for all it's not like too in depth, it doesn't need to be. It just adds that kind of familiarity, and I'm all for it. You know, I love that scene, and I think Fred's at his best when he's kind of acting like.
I'd agree. Was that anything that you noted on that you particularly enjoyed, Rhianna?
I loved it, and I loved the fact that throughout the movie there were puns, and the Amazonette, that name, I was like, yes, that's a perfect name for a net.
It is. I love what they did with Fred's character. Like, I just think they've developed on so many characters so well in this. And something else that I've enjoyed in this one is the gang all then see Dapper Jack together. Quite often, Shaggy and Scooby go, they see the ghost and everyone's like, no, no, no. You know, you're imagining it, don't be silly, go back to sleep. Whereas with this one, they're all there. Nobody's questioning Shaggy and Scooby. I like it.
Definitely, I guess, a more efficient way of doing things.
I kind of enjoy it because, like you say, it's more efficient, and I feel like they've put in some really good character building in this movie because they've had a bit more time.
I don't know. I think this is very by the books, by the formula, Scooby Doo. But I don't think we've had one of these for a while, you know, like, we've either been in a crossover, it's been Lego, which, like, no disrespect to crossovers or the Lego things, but it just feels refreshing to be back to this kind of formula. And, I don't know, maybe I'd feel differently if we'd watched it out of context, or say if we'd watched it back to back to, say, Phantasaur or Legend of the Vampire, where it is very much like that, but I'm seeing this as so refreshing. Like, if every Scooby movie was like this, I'd be happy.
Like you say, this one certainly is very formulaic, so, you know, obviously there's just in them Dapper Jack for the first time, they managed to escape. Something else that I really like that happens not long after that is Fred's like, oh yeah, I was the best at this at Camp Little Moose. And me and JayBee turned to each other and was like, yes! Because Camp Scare was a movie that I think it's fair to say we both particularly enjoyed. I believe on that episode it was a unanimous smash for that episode. Good movie. So just to hear that callback, and also something that I personally find is quite often things don't always fit in a timeline very well with Scooby. You more or less have to appreciate things in their own right and just appreciate that quite often it's not going to have any continuity to it. It's just something that you enjoy that is there at the time. And just have that little bit of continuity, that little callback was quite exciting.
Yeah, like Camp Scare is, I think, a classic at this point, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I love Camp Scare. I'd smash that right now, you know. I'd smash that again.
Watch the movie again, like, yes, definite smash, not did you pick up on the Camp Scare reference? Is that a movie you enjoyed, Rhianna?
I did. I loved it. Like, and the thing is that in Camp Scare we learned how much Fred loved Camp Little Moose, and hearing him mention it, I was like, I got really excited. And from the first time to even when I watched it yesterday, I was so excited, and I was like, he mentioned it. Like, there was the little things, and I just, you know, I will admit I had a slight suspicion that, you know, when he was saying that he was the best at like shoeing and things like that, I was like, I don't think they, you know, they mean what you're thinking, Fred, but go with it because I'm just really into this reference. And
yeah, we're just happy that you're talking about it.
And it just hit me. I think I remember it was with the Wakumi, and there was the dog called Shooby Doo, and it was meeting Shaggy's friend or something like that. It just hit me, and but just all of the references in this movie, and there were so many puns, there were so many references. It felt like a classic Scooby Doo movie, the same, you know. And I know some people would be like, oh, it's the same formula, it's predictable, but at the same time, it's what draws everyone in. And
yeah,
for diehard Scooby fans, for fans who have watched multiple Scooby Doo movies, you know, even for the casual fan, they'll hear that reference, they'll be like, what's Camp Little Moose? They'll Google it, and then they'll be like, oh, Camp Scare, I'm going to watch that now. And it's little things like that that I just really enjoy. And you know, even with when there was the reference with Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated, they kept with Fred's obsession with traps and nets, which it allowed a nice little timeline that we can make up in our own mind, what, like, which was set where did this like come in. And for me, it kind of gave a more, I feel like they went to Camp Little Moose and did Camp Scare, and then, you know, it was possibly still the summertime, so on the drive back to wherever they're going, like back to Poolsville, they decided to stop off to meet Shaggy's third cousin. And I could come up with my own little storyline and what may have happened in between, and it just warmed my heart, and I love it.
that is amazing. It was just such a good reference, and I think it just added to the movie having it there, and I'd like to see them do that a bit more, just kind of interlink some things just a little bit stronger like they have done here.
But like, I think a testament to it as well is, and I don't want to give too much away, but when I was watching Return to Zombie Island for the first time and they kind of did those kind of visual flashbacks, eventually it was kind of like, oh well, thanks for making me wish I was watching that movie and not this one. Whereas they mentioned Camp Scare, and for all I was like, oh, I could almost watch that after, I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm gonna switch this off and put Camp Scare on, or it's just made me wish I was watching Camp Scare.
Yeah, it was done really well. So they're going to split up now and look for clues. Velma goes with Daphne, and then we see Daphne start to adapt into that kind of cowgirl look as well.
Wait, where was that?
That's the next thing I've got written down.
I might be a little bit behind. I'll just catch up, but I guess, yeah, Rhianna, what did you think about Cowgirl Daphne?
I loved the outfit, and you know, with Daphne, she's like the fashionista and things like that, but we don't get to see her often changing costume. And this, it wasn't even like she just put a cowgirl hat on and, you know, the thingy top that goes over the top, you know, of her normal dress and stuff. We saw her completely change, and it was really refreshing. And the fact that once she put that on, she really, you know, it kind of reminded me when I first saw Shaggy, is that, you know, they committed to the part of being a cowboy / cowgirl, and it was just, I really liked it, and I really liked the design of it because, you know, it wasn't the bright purple as well, it was a subtle lilac, which it all just flowed and it made sense in a lot of ways.
It did, and like you said, there wasn't kind of that strong Daphne link like you normally get. Like normally, say for example, they're going into space, it's a spacesuit in purple. It wasn't just like, okay, let's make a cowgirl outfit in purple. It was, let's have a cowgirl outfit and Daphne's wearing it. It didn't have to be specific to her. Like, the Velma one's not too dissimilar. If anything, she looks more like Velma because she kept the orange sweater, whereas Daphne kind of changed it up completely.
Yeah, I've literally just got like page after page of simping, so
I mean, I think you're joining the cast there, JayBee, because Velma's been trying to speak to that guy for a good 15 minutes, like, okay, can you tell me about this? And he's like, it's £5 per hour, no videos, £10, like whatever it was. And then Daphne comes in and he's like, oh, hi, yeah, it's fine, videos are allowed. And Mom was just like, you just said they weren't. And he's just like, shush, 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 shush.
I mean, yeah, clearly this geezer's a man of substance. Like, he knows what's up. And it's like, obviously people can say, oh, but why is that the case? Why does that always happen? But I'd almost argue...
doesn't it?
No, I think it almost happens in reverse.
I don't. You see, like, when Daphne arrived at the ranch, there was that guy that was like, oh, hi, lovely.
But then there was another one that spoke to Velma. And all throughout, Velma gets that kind of attention. So there's Windsor from the Phantasaur. There's that pervert from Camp Scare, you know, the ranger.
I can't believe you call him that. You're just saying that because Daphne was, like, rejected by him.
No, there's literally a pervert in Camp Scare that's like, oh, hey, beautiful, and like that's.
How can you say that watching Camp Scare and then you've seen Kiss and that's not the example that you're thinking of?
Well, no, I think the Velma usually has the person finding them attractive. Daphne is usually the one pursuing someone. Like, not usually, it only happens a handful of times. When it does happen, it's with a kind of more famous person. So you've got that Star Child, you've got John Cena. Whereas I think quite often Velma is, I guess, hit on, is that the word, more than Daphne?
Yeah.
But this was a refreshing, like, I enjoyed this a lot. And honestly, if I was working anywhere and Daphne came in, whoa.
JayBee.
What?
Engaged man, calm yourself. Rhianna, what did you think to the kind of dynamic here? Like, obviously, everything that happens in the store.
It was quite interesting, and you know, I'm trying to think about like everything that you guys said, and one thing that I did kind of like though, and it ties in with how everyone like kind of treated Daphne in the end, like how she had was it, I can't remember names right now. I don't know why my brain is just like mush. But Fred got jealous, and it was kind of nice seeing Daphne being able to talk to someone like another male without Fred getting jealous, or you know, Daphne getting jealous over someone talking to Fred. It was quite nice to see how she would get the information out of the guy and things like that. And I think they did it really well. And we had, I think Velma was, once they went back, she was like looking at the fish and she was caught up in all of like the fishing stuff. Well, we saw Daphne actually hunker down and be like, oh wait, no, there's more to this, you know, and we got to see a more, I don't know how to phrase it, but I guess more intelligent version of Daphne, more tactful, where she thought about everything and the best way to go about it.
Yeah, I do think that Daphne has an intelligence that's sometimes not acknowledged or recognised or pursued enough. For example, I don't know, like, I think it was the Nikki Blake show was talking about her as kind of like the social one. And we see that right from the start of this movie, that like they need direction. Shaggy's trying and everyone's scared of him. And she just finds the first person she sees and she's like, oh, hi, this is what we're trying to do. Can you tell us where to go? She is quite integral in a way that I don't think is always acknowledged.
I think she might even be the best.
I can see that you believe that, JayBee.
I do. I truly do.
Okay, so I think the next thing we see is Scooby and some horse riding. So I think he's trying to help Buddy G get confident with the horse riding, so he like climbs on the horse and everything. That's quite a fun light-hearted scene. That's something that I think adds to the movie, just that kind of, because it is quite a threatening villain. We've kind of established that this one seems almost like an age level up. So to just have that little light-hearted vibe again, I enjoyed it.
I mean, this is gonna sound weird, and for all Scooby is wholesome, this is like the first time that we've actually seen Scooby showing empathy for someone that wasn't Shaggy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like the first time we've seen him lower expectations for a child, like an understanding of fear and that kind of thing.
I actually really like that. Like, it was almost heartwarming to see like Scooby look across, see that someone's scared and just go, I'm gonna help them out just because, even if Shaggy's doing something else.
Yeah. Even above Shaggy we see at the end.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that was a really nice dynamic. Is that something you enjoyed, Rhianna?
I did. And this is a little known fact about me. And when I was growing up, I had a dog called Diesel, and he was my best friend. And it was very much like a Shaggy Scooby dynamic between us. But there was around the corner a Great Dane called Fergus. Every time I'd walk to school with my mum, and this was when I was in, preschool to mid-junior school, he would drag his owner on the walk over and literally run over and just stop right in front of me and lick my face. And it just made me remember that kind of dynamic I had with him, it sounds really weird, but it was like seeing Scooby have that relationship with him. I was like, and putting someone else above, like with Shaggy. And Fergus was always protective over his owner and everything, but in that situation, he always ran over to me and I'd give him a hug and everything before going to school. And it just took me back to that. And it was a nice little, like, it warmed my heart so much. And Scooby really cares about other people, but I think sometimes, and we got to see another level of him again. And I think this movie, it's an age up and everything, but we also see all of the characters grow more because we see Fred has, more insecurities. He's like, well, I'm usually the best at this. So I'm usually better than Shaggy. And he's not. So he's realizing things, and it kind of puts him in a situation where he has to learn about who he is again. And we're learning that Shaggy can be confident. And, I think it's later on in the movie, he rides the horse, the Widowmaker, which again, that reference, I was like, that will go over kids' heads. But we see each character in their own grow, and we see Scooby caring for someone else other than Shaggy, and it just, I'm tearing up. It was like really emotional.
It is the sweetest thing. Like, just for that to be such like a scared child who has this love of horses, but he's too scared of them to kind of be able to do that. And it's mentioned quite a few times, like, oh, you really like horses, why don't you try and do it? And I'm like, oh, I can't. And Scooby's like, no, you can. And like, they almost play like a maturer character in this than they often do, in that they have that empathy, compassion, and also just that kind of like mentoring vibe, that they are an older kind of person that's looked up to, and that's how they achieve what they do.
I just think dogs in general are incredible.
I mean, there's a story that your family often tell, JayBee,
you don't
about...
because you hate them.
No, I never had a dog, and I'm just scared of animals. But there's a story that your parents tell where, like, the dog that you have now, your brother was learning to walk, and he kept falling. So the dog used to walk next to him, so he could like lean on the dog if he was about to fall while he was trying to learn to walk. It's quite sweet.
That was actually the one that got put down.
Oh, I thought it was on your
No, you're thanking so you're a bit of a.
You could have just gone with the story.
Yeah, I could have.
But no, there was definitely a story about the dog just trying to like help him learn to walk, which is really sweet.
Well, the one that we've got now actually is so cute, because I used to go for like walks on the beach with my younger brother and the dog, and if my younger brother was quite far behind me, the dog would stop and like look, like physically purposely look past me to make sure that they were caught up with us before continuing on. So there is a great like kind of intelligence to dogs that I don't think we even fully understand now, but it's just amazing. Like, I wish that I could interact with dogs more often, I want to get one, but I don't think you'll let me.
I'm just scared of them.
Why?
Like, I'm genuinely petrified of animals, and I don't know why, but I just am.
But it's a dog.
I know, but I'm scared of them.
You just poke them, you cuddle them, you kiss them. They're like your best friend.
Okay, so the next thing is some more development with Fred's character. So this is where they're like, oh yeah, I can do the horseshoe thing. And so he's spending the day with them. He uses that phrase, hold the phone, which I know you and smASH have mentioned quite a bit, JayBee, that he tried to make kind of canon. Because like other people have like Jeepers, Jinkies, and there was never really one for Fred. Okay. So yeah, that's said a couple of times. There's also this thing where he wears his ascot differently for a while.
I didn't notice that.
Did you notice it, Rhianna?
I know, like, Daphne rips it off to try and get the kid to sign it. Maybe that's why he puts it on a bit differently.
No, it's a long time after that. It's when he's doing the horseshoe thing. He wears it just like tied
sideways.
Yeah.
I did not notice that.
I don't know why I noticed it, but
maybe I was daydreaming.
I just feel I don't know why he's done that. He looks different.
I probably still had Cowgirl Daphne on the brain, to be fair.
And then everyone starts making fun of Fred, and Daphne and Velma get back, and there's that huge crowd, and they're like, "Hey, your friend's an idiot," and then they're like, "Oh wait, it's your friend. Oh yeah, there's a guy over there."
I can't believe that your friend's an idiot.
No, they're really like abrupt and evil, like quite cruel, and then they're like, "Oh gosh, it's your friend." Oh.
So what was Fred expecting, do you suppose? Do you reckon what I got from it was like he thought it was going to be like throwing the horseshoe?
Yeah, like the horseshoe game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. Because when he says, "Where's the stake?" I think that's the pole that you put in the ground that you try and throw the horseshoes around.
Oh, like hoopla.
Yeah, I think, is that what you understood as well, Rhianna?
Yeah, that's what I thought. And because that's also in some ways what, you know, when they first came out and the guy was like throwing and juggling the horseshoes, I think that's what everyone was thinking. Like, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think that's what majority of people, because, you know, he was throwing them, so expecting him to throw it around a post and things like that. And it is, I think it's an easy like misconception, because shoeing, horseshoe throwing, things like that, like it could be anything.
Yeah. It certainly, it just led to an interesting little story development. It was good to just see all these characters in a different light. So then we start to become suspicious of Dave and David. They're kind of heading out in the night. And I think, like, again, this is where we see an age up, because they're like, "Oh gosh, what's in that bag? Like, are they taking a gun with them?" Then Shaggy falls and he's like, "Ah, don't shoot me." And it's just a tripod. I don't know, like you say, JayBee, as soon as like a gun's referenced, it's kind of like, it just seems different.
Do they ever explain what they're doing? Because I know that they're supposedly shooting some, well, they're wanting to shoot some type of blockbuster movie, but like, are they just testing for background shots?
The way I see it is when they're talking about like what they want to do, they start to mention something that sounds like Aladdin, like this kind of genie friend thing and everything. So to me, it was like they were looking for the Cave of Wonders, like, you know, the middle of a desert and stuff. And I think it was just they were taking pictures for the movie.
I guess, fun fact though, the Cave of Wonders is Frank Welker. So is Abu, so yeah. The more you know, right?
Little fun fact there. See, I was never particularly suspicious of them. I know, JayBee, you said you were.
I was so suspicious of them. I suspected, I guess that's one aspect I got right. I knew that there had to be multiple, like, accomplices or whatever. But I honestly thought that it was Dave and David. And I don't know what motive I'd got. Maybe to build hype, almost like the hauntings were almost a publicity stunt to promote the movie. Because I know that, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Rhianna, but a few years ago, when they had that kind of killer clown hoax, and that turned out to have originated as kind of viral marketing for an independent film. And that's kind of the vibe that I was getting maybe with this.
Interesting thought. Was there anyone that you were suspicious of about this time, Rhianna?
This stage, you know, I like Dave and David, I wasn't suspicious of, because I was like, I don't know, something about them. And also we saw them when Dapper Jack attacked. I think it was the second time or the third time when it was like all on the ranch. We saw them, but I noticed we didn't see Kyle. So I was like, you know, it's probably him at that stage. And also, you know, mentioned in the first bit, but this actually just, I remembered when I watched it yesterday, this was my mum's first time watching it as well. And she turned around when the characters were all being introduced. She just said, "It's that guy," and pointed to Kyle. And it was just so out of the blue. And I said, "Well, how do you know?" And she said, "I don't know. I just think it's him." And it was. And that made me laugh so much.
I mean, I think one thing that kind of points towards them is they're the one that looks the most like Shaggy, right?
And he's a pervert as well.
Like, What is the theme with you saying that today? I just think that like the villain was meant to look like Shaggy. They were clearly the one that did the most. I guess it's quite fitting, really. So at this point, they go and visit the grave, which again, Dapper Jack appears. All this kind of green mist and things. They escape on the canoe, which is, again, just like a funny little play where Shaggy's been like, oh, I wouldn't get in that if you paid me. And then it's like, okay, then, well, are you going to stay here with Dapper Jack? Because we're not. Also, we get another bit of information around this time in that Velma has the allergic reaction to the horse.
Oh, yeah.
So we know that it's not like a projected-like thing. It's something physical.
Physical.
So, yeah, that kind of all happens.
But then they nearly go down the waterfall, don't they? And I think they're just saved by Shaggy's. He like lassos the tree, it breaks, and everyone's like, "Oh no!" But it still saves them anyway. But then like Shaggy's cousin is like, "Oh, I own the canoe company. You owe me like $40 or something," and it's like, "Oh, what a cheap person."
Yeah.
I wasn't happy with that, really. But I guess, like, if they're struggling so much financially, it makes sense that they wouldn't just be like, oh, you're my fourth cousin, so have, like, a 50% off mates rate. Although, it was a bit insincere that, like, the first thing is, oh my gosh, you all could have died and it would have been my fault. And then, oh, by the way, here's the bill.
Yeah. And I guess it's revealed just after that she's at threat of losing the barn and needs to make the $10,000, which Shaggy is like, okay, Scooby can whisper to horses and stuff, so I can do this.
But what is this buddy guy for? He's useless, actually, isn't it? Because he's meant to be this massive celebrity. He is so, well, I guess it's not purely for him, but unless this, like, yodeling ranch can, like, sell out a massive stadium show thing, primarily there must be, and there are a lot of buddy fans in the audience, if you can sell out an arena, type thing, to get a brand deal, like, make merch. Why can this kid not make 10k?
I mean, we get to see his performance, and I think it's quite good. There's a big audience; they all enjoy it.
Like, charge
Fred,
50 quid an
Daphne
autograph
were
or something.
dancing. Did you enjoy the performance, Rhianna?
I enjoyed it, but at the same time, for me, it didn't really fully make sense because I feel like his performance would have gone down a right hit with stage fright. You know, I felt like, because the ghost didn't even go after him. If that happened, it would make more sense, but it didn't really. Like, there was nothing to link him, and you know, I just didn't really understand why, because, you know, why didn't he help raise the money? I know he was opening up the show and everything, but it just, you know, the whole rodeo type thing, but it just didn't really have a meaning. But it was cool to see, like, you know, Shaggy and Scooby get up and dance, and with the Sharon and the other one who constantly played pranks on each other, to see them like doing something other than annoy each other, that was kind of nice, I think. But I just overall didn't really understand the reason behind it.
Yeah, I think for me, Buddy's main purpose in this was just to get that really nice dynamic that we saw with Scooby. Other than that, I don't really feel like they contributed that much. But that really nice dynamic is followed on from again because he is about to ride his horse. So Shaggy's getting ready to do that like kind of rodeo thing. And he's like, Scooby, make sure you speak to the horse. Make sure you speak to it. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. And then goes off to help Buddy. They ride on Scooby through the parade, and then Scooby sees the empty horse and is like, come on, you can do it. And then they finally get to ride their horse. They have that really nice moment. And of course, that was all fueled by Scooby. Yeah, that was really good. They get to ride their horse. Then Shaggy does the rodeo. And so they go out on the horse. Like, we've talked about the name before. What was it? The Widow? Something?
The Widowmaker?
The Widowmaker. And like you say, that's a reference that's going to go over children's heads, right? But it's still, very dark.
It was like, this horse, like, has killed me? Like, what? And it's like, I just turned to, like, my brother and everything. It was like, this is dark. Like, are we going to see someone, like, physically get killed? Because that's not in Scooby-Doo's, like, nature. This is a cartoon. It says PG. Like, hold your horses. No pun intended. But
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, the name of the other horse as well was the something bandage, right?
Oh, it was like the
Yeah.
book stitch, because if it books you off, you need a stitch.
Yeah. There's just so many horses, and it's like, oh gosh.
But why do they name it after horrific accidents? Like, or imagine being a horse. Like, you go from being a little baby thing, your natural state is to roam about in field, and then you're named like Bonesaw or something. I wouldn't be happy.
But there's like, it's just so many amazing things. We see Shaggy have that natural ability because, of course, Scooby didn't get a chance to talk to them. He does really well. He wins the rodeo, calms the horse down, and then not only does he calm the horse down, but then when at the end all the cattle escape, he's like in such control of that horse that was meant to be so like fearsome that he manages to just chase it all down. Something that I did find amusing was like when they managed to get Fred, Daphne, and Velma all on one horse. And Velma, nobody was holding her. She was gonna fall off.
Well, maybe she will.
I kept thinking of like in the cyber chase when they're riding the woolly mammoths.
Oh,
and I was like,
yes.
oh, are they hoping to have like that kind of reference? But it isn't going to work out because that horse is not big enough for the three of them.
No, it's not. Like, Velma looked so close to falling. It was just like, oh gosh, when are you gonna go? This isn't good. But I guess it works. They get all the cattle back to the like main stadium area, which is where it was meant to be. So yeah, that was really good. And then they start to go to the unmasking. So there's a trap, but Dapper Jack escapes. And then they have that kind of party. So we finally get to see Velma in the cowgirl outfit. And she said that she'd only do that for like a really good reason. I'm like, oh, has Daphne convinced her? And it's to lure that guy over.
Yeah, I told you he was a pervert. And this is the what? So you can't say that her wearing a different outfit to lure them over. You cannot sit there and tell me that he's not a pervert. Admit it.
I mean, I do think him coming over is largely linked to her changing outfit. So
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
See, look at that.
And that's how they reveal under the UV light that it was them, that they'd, obviously been the one in the net, which makes them Dapper Jack.
Yeah.
We got a free science lesson.
We did. So then, they're arrested and like led away. But Fred's like, okay, it's not over. Let's go looking this person's apartment, like their house. And to me, it's like, surely that's a crime scene.
Oh.
Isn't that going to be like fenced off, taped off? How are they getting in here?
I wouldn't go in there. I wouldn't know what to do, and I don't know how they I guess they say that it's like a two-person thing.
Well,
I forget what led them to that conclusion, because I agree.
Because something spooked the cattle at the rodeo.
Oh yeah.
But Dapper Jack wasn't there, so they were like, something else must have done this. But it wasn't the normal conventional unmasking. You don't see that it was definitely that person. You just have those marks to go on. So for me...
Oh, how did you know?
Yeah.
Oh.
So for me, surely they couldn't have just gone into their place because they'd need whatever evidence they can. And now they go poking and prodding in the safe like, oh, these are the guns. This is the hat. It's like, oh gosh, surely they can't use any of that in evidence now if you're doing this.
They don't even wear gloves or anything, so their fingerprints will be all over the guns.
And then they find the diary, which is like clearing Dapper Jack's name, that they were a good person. They were just framed by another ancestor of the second person.
That guy, what's his name? Not Macintosh. Not McIntyre. Not MacArthur. Carmichael. Carmichael. Sheriff Carmichael.
So yeah, they're the second kind of person. So all in all, I think it was a really good unmasking. It was actually slightly different from what we normally see. And that in theory it wasn't an unmasking. It was a trap that proved something later on, and also it being a double thing was really, really cool. So I enjoyed the unmasking.
I thought it was a bit emotional, to learn that that Shaggy's ancestor was vilified for so long, to have their name cleared. I don't know. I think it adds such an emotional kind of end to it, in the way that not a lot of Scoobies do, even when they bring relatives into it. Kind of just thinking about Shannon Blake from Loch Ness Monster. I like the movie, but there's not much to her besides.
No, that's just saving the festival. Whereas this is they save the ranch, but they clear this guy's name as well. And that's another emotional bit where you see their kind of spirit, their ghost, something stood on the rock at the end, and they just nod to Shaggy. And he's like, Scoob, did you see that? And he's like, no. So
it's like
okay,
kind of Sirius Black effect, right? It's like, I don't know. I thought it was just emotional, and I think it almost got me. Not in terms of like any teary or anything, but just, oh wow, okay, that's such a satisfying conclusion.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm a very emotional person. Like, I genuinely felt my heart do a different beat when that happened.
Aww.
I was very satisfied with that ending.
I mean, I'd be happy if one of my ancestors cleared my name.
Did you enjoy the unmasking, Rhianna?
I did. Like, when they first announced it was I think the guy who did it, yeah, Ruff, the horsey guy who that you know the guy, and when he got the gun and then there was that whole chase, I was like, and he actually fired the gun, and it wasn't just like a pew or anything; it was an actual gun sound, and I was gun. And like. And there was the click of the like hammer being pulled back, and I was like, okay, this is getting like, what's going on? But then, we saw, Scooby. I mean, Buddy G did have a part to play in like catching him, getting on the horse, and like stopping the little cart thing, and that was really satisfying. And then at the end with the Dapper Jack's ghost, I did cry. I was like, oh, his spirit can finally, be put to rest. He's at peace. His name has been cleared. And I got so emotional. But I was like, where's his Scooby? He's on a horse. Where's his Scooby?
Yeah. Like, they didn't utilize the Scooby thing enough, like them having a Scooby. It'd have been so cool to see that. And I do agree with you, the end, like, the guns and stuff was just, it was, like, just, oh my gosh, what is this? Why is this happening? And also, one thing that I did like from because I thought it at the start and they did it, was when there was that like untamable horse, and there's like, oh well, there's only one horse fast enough, and Shaggy's like, yeah, I've got this, it's fine. It's like, yes, I was so happy.
Me too.
I feel like internally I was like cheering at that point.
It was so action packed, I actually really like it. It's probably one of the, maybe even my favourite ending to a Scooby Doo movie. Not, it's at least in top 5, because even movies I really like Alien Invaders, I love the emotional scene with Crystal and Amber, and then they kind of kill it with the laughing. Whereas I don't think anything cheapens the ending of this. It's the most structured one. It's got a start, a middle, and a really satisfying end. So
it does.
I like this a lot, and the ending's perfect.
Me too. Like, I honestly agree with you. So this is a time when we go to verdicts. So JayBee, Scooby Doo Shaggy Showdown, smash or pass?
I love this one. I think this is incredible. I would watch it again now, to be honest. I just think it got me emotionally in a way that I did not expect. It's such a breath of fresh air from the kind of crossovers that I didn't quite understand and didn't quite enjoy as much. And honestly, I think it's no secret that I will definitely have dreams about Cowgirl Daphne tonight. So it's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win. This is huge, and I love it. So this is super duper smash for me. Millie, would you smash or pass Scooby Doo Shaggy Showdown?
I think I agree with a lot of what you were saying, in that for a while we've had the collaborations, the Lego. This was a refreshing return to classic Scooby formula, and not only that, but it was better than even the classics, because Shaggy's character is really compelling, and I like to see them getting some of the accreditation they deserve. So been recognized, not just for being scared. Like, what movie is it I'm thinking of where he isn't scared of anything because he's got the power word?
The Phantasaur.
The Phantasaur. So, he has this exemption of fear, whereas here he stands on his own 2 feet, no exemptions, just natural born talent, and embracing that who he is good enough, and all that kind of thing. Like, there's just so many positives, and yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one. amazing ending, a very emotional ending, and I'm an emotional person. So
technically supernatural, right? Like, of course, Scooby doesn't see the ghost. There's a ghost there.
yeah, there's just a lot that I really enjoyed about this one. So for me, this one is most definitely a smash. So finally, Rhianna, Scooby Doo Shaggy Showdown, smash or pass?
Okay, so I'm the same. Like, it was such an amazing movie. There were so many compelling parts. We saw each and every character. They developed a new skill in some ways, new personalities. We saw different depth to Velma, Daphne, Fred, Shaggy, and Scooby, and it was just amazing. And all of the references, all of the puns, all of just everything, and it had a satisfying ending. It wasn't one where it felt too rushed or things like that. They actually took their time to tell the story of the reason behind the costume kind of thing. And I mean, this is a little bit of a side note as well, but I just got my Shaggy Showdown DVD out with the sleeve on and everything. And as part of my collection, it's the most satisfying thing to look at because the sleeve is like shiny and Dapper Jack's ghost is like kind of faded in the background. And then when you tilt it slightly, you can see it more. And as part of my collection for DVDs of Scooby Doo, that is one of the most satisfying ones I have, which I'm really glad that I have. And even that makes me, I'm just gonna get to it. I'm smashing it. Like, I'm going to watch it again tonight and probably tomorrow night. It's just, there's so many amazing things in it, and I feel like if it's your first time watching Scooby Doo, it will definitely captivate you as well and make you want to watch more of it.
So it is unanimous. This movie is a smash. Honestly, it's amazing. Something else that I realized that I forgot to mention that I enjoyed was when they find the business card and they reveal it at the end, and Velma's like, there isn't two people that would use this hideous font. I was like, yes, it's finally relevant.
Oh, and also that kind of callback where they're like, oh, look at this, I designed it myself. And she's like, yeah, that's a really nice font.
It's funny. Oh, gosh. Yeah, Velma's character gets better and better throughout this movie. So, yeah, it's amazing. So, with that wrapped up, this just leaves us to community news. So, JayBee has said that I can say this, I believe.
Well, shall we do official Scooby stuff before that?
Okay, fine. What's your official Scooby stuff?
That they've announced that next year there's going to be I don't know what it is, if it's a Scoob special or a sequel movie, but it's going to be called The Holiday Haunt. So that's something to look out for.
Something else that I think is worth mentioning is obviously there was the Courage the Cowardly Dog Straight Out of Nowhere movie and the Courage Funkos.
Oh yeah.
People have started receiving them.
Not in the UK, I don't think. We pre-ordered ours from Pop in a Box, and I've heard nothing back since. So,
but some people are starting to get them, so I guess that's where the news.
Yeah, it's Courage, the Dog Funko Pop, which is awesome. They're kind of really cute. I want to get one, and I'm gonna cuddle it, and it's gonna be my friend.
And Rhianna, do you have any Scooby news? Anything that you're aware of this week?
I'm not too sure. I think I know about the Scoob Holiday Haunt one. I think it's like a short episode or something. That's going to, I get the feeling that's going to lead up to the second Scoob movie. But I'm not too sure. I know that there will be from Figure's Toy Company, I think there's going to be 2 different versions of Red Bear's Ghost coming out as a figure.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on Figure's Toys Company. They've done 2 Daphne things, and I've added them both to my cart 3 times, and then seen the shipping price, and I've vomited in my mouth. Oh, I can't.
You could have told me this long before Christmas,
What the heck? No, you wouldn't have. No, you wouldn't. You don't even, because I can't. Because I'll go into a panic attack. Don't say such things to me. Don't do it.
They're also doing a Shaggy figure that's from the That Snow Ghost episode.
Oh. And I think I heard something about maybe a Scrappy, but I don't know. I guess they're doing
There's
some
so
pretty
many
cool things.
figures.
I just want them to do more stuff in the UK, you know. That would make my day. But it's difficult. I don't know. So, Millie.
So does that lead up to our big news?
Yeah, it would be on Instagram by now.
So yeah, it'll probably be on Instagram and Twitter by now, but over the last few days we have been releasing some clues as to who our New Year's special interview is going to be. As always, JayBee's been working hard, speaking to people, and we have secured a very, very amazing interview that will be going out on New Year's Day. And that is with Courage the Cowardly Dog himself, Marty Grabstein.
Ooh.
So that's obviously really exciting because that links into the newest movie, Straight Out of Nowhere. And obviously just Courage the Cowardly Dog in itself was an amazing series that we personally really enjoyed watching. So yeah, we're really looking forward to them. So I guess well done if you saw through the clues.
Yeah, like, honestly, I think, like, and again, we're recording this on the 23rd, so we haven't seen all the reactions from, like, clues 3 and 4 and I guess 5 or however many we've got. But I know that, like, one that I just kind of want to congratulate is the first clue. Clue number 1 was literally a blanked out version of the old Cartoon Network logo, and Dexter, like, got it instantly.
Like, I'm willing to admit that after clue 1 went out and Dexter was like, okay, it's this, within, like, minutes, we were like, we kind of need to rethink the clues a little bit. Because the second one was meant to be a French flag and a duck for the quack. And JayBee was like, think about French ducks on Cartoon Network. No, we're not doing this. It's too easy. It's too obvious. So we had to rethink it because the guesses were already so accurate.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be absolutely huge. And just an honour in general. I think we're doing some really cool things on the channel lately, and I'm here for it, you know. Hopefully...
Long may it continue, and of course, JayBee, thank you for your hard work securing all these things. So yeah, thank you.
That's what I do.
So I think that concludes it for this episode. Again, happy Christmas, everybody. We hope you have had an amazing day. If you want to stick around on the channel, 11 GMT today, which will probably be an hour or less away at this point, we have our Christmas special as well. So please make sure to go and check that out. And yeah, thank you so much. Happy Christmas, everybody. And please like, comment, and subscribe. JayBee and Millie and Rhianna, thank you so, so much for being here again today.